Hi, I'm Basira, a property investor, and my partner and I, we have successfully grown our property portfolio to over £1 million in under 2 years. You do this through leveraging investor finance to buy, refurb, and rent out properties. And we are documenting our journey to financial freedom through acquiring properties. Thinking about buying a house in the UK? It's one of the biggest decisions you'll ever make. So you want to be sure, especially within the UK's unique market and factors, it's important to be well prepared. And in today's video, I'm going to walk you through some of the top things you should be considering in buying your first property. Let's make sure you get the best deal. We're going to talk about things that I would do if I was buying a property today. I've had a property now for over 7 years, and that's my first one that I've ever acquired. And now we've managed to build our portfolio to acquire a number of properties. I thought, what would I do differently today if I was going to buy a property from scratch? And the last two things I'll mention are actually quite surprising. So watch to the end. So first up, location is one thing you can't change about the house. So depending on what you're looking for in terms of the property, especially firstly, if it's a residential property, you'll want to look for a friendly neighborhood, somewhere that's close to public transport. And actually, that kind of applies if you're looking for an investment property as well, because location is really important to ensuring that you get a return on your investment. First tip, definitely visit at different times in the day. So I remember when I bought my first property, I visited, I think, at least 3 times, and I tried to ensure that I came at different times in the day to see what it was like just during the school hours, what it was like in the evening, and actually just during the day. And that's one of the tips that I found extremely useful. So for in the UK, commuting can be a big part of your lifestyle. So you may want to ensure that you are close to either close transport, because that could also increase the property's value over time. But if it's in a residential capacity that you're thinking about buying your first property, you want to think about your lifestyle and your future needs. So ensuring that, maybe you want to have a property close to the gym, somewhere where there's maybe lots of restaurants and bars. It really depends on your lifestyle, and you want to ensure that it matches your needs. So 2, budget reality check. So your dream home should not turn into a financial nightmare. So work out how much you can comfortably afford after you consider the deposit, the mortgage payments, and for any maybe unexpected repairs that might be coming down the line, your council tax as well, so all the relevant taxes depending on where you're watching this from. You want to ensure that you consider things such as stamp duty, because that can be a deposit in itself. Also consider things such as the legal and the conveyancing fees, because you don't want to end up having just your deposit and not have money to actually execute and close the deal because you need a conveyancer. So this is an addition to the deposit. So don't just think it's only the deposit I have to raise and you're sorted. No, you have to think about the legal fees, your stamp duty, and any other overhead costs that you might want to consider, to ensure that you're not basically taking on too much, because you don't want to get into your dream home and then find out that all you can have is bread and butter for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So keep that in mind. Just be realistic about your budget. Natural light and ventilation. So this is something that actually I didn't think about when I bought my first house. It's something I'm definitely going to do and consider in my next property, because with natural lighting, it would mean it has an impact actually on your energy costs, for example, even the mood and the atmosphere of your property. So make sure you visit the house during the day to get a feel for how much sunlight enters the room and to feel how ventilated the space is as well. So definitely consider this going forward, because I most certainly will be. Space and size. So this might be an obvious one and something that you'll be thinking about anyway. Think about your current needs and maybe your future needs, so maybe in the next 2 to 3 years, if you plan to be in this property for that amount of time. So you want to consider how many rooms you need. You need an extra room for maybe when people stay over. There's how many bathrooms you'll need, how many bedrooms. Consider if you're a growing family and how many rooms you may need in the future, if you intend to stay in this property for a longer period. If it's for an investment, you may want to think about the square footage of rooms, because that can have an impact sometimes on the overall value, depending on who your surveyor is, to be honest. And it could also be really important if you want to maybe convert one room into two to increase the value as well. So if you have a large room and you want to cut it down the middle, for example, you need to ensure that the new size of the room is in line with the council requirements for the minimum size of a room. Especially from an investment perspective, this would be more important in terms of the square footage. Home inspection and structural integrity. So when you're viewing a property, be sure to get a surveyor out. Some banks would actually require that you do this as a mandatory requirement before they even lend to you, because, for example, they want to ensure that what the property has been valued at is what they're prepared to lend against, so it's not below. So that's something to bear in mind. But for more importantly, for yourself, you would want a surveyor to come in and probably do it at the home buyers report level. So that's the level 2, the RICS level 2. You'd probably want them to come in and check for the structural integrity. And there's some surveyors that actually look at the electrical system or the plumbing system as well, because these sort of things can be extremely costly down the line. So you'd want to know up front, this property that you're purchasing, are there any issues that you need to potentially be aware of that you can actually use as a negotiating tool down the line. So energy efficiency and the EPC ratings. Now, I definitely did not consider this when buying my first property, but I will be in my next one. Energy efficiency is more important than ever in the UK, where heating costs can be high in winter, especially with the, really drastic increase in costings with heating. So every home will have an energy performance certificate, and that essentially rates its energy efficiency. So you want to ensure that the property that you're purchasing is no less than C, in my opinion. A and B is absolutely fabulous, but that's definitely something that I didn't consider, but I intend to going forward, because homes with higher EPC ratings are not only more environmentally friendly, but can also save you money on your utility bills. So you want to look for double glazing, modern boilers, and insulation. Legal process and conveyancing. So the UK home buying process, it involves a lot of legal work. And in my experience, out of all the properties that I've purchased, it's always been smoother when I've had a conveyancing team that knows what they are doing, and not the sluggish ones that you have to chase up. And if you don't chase up, nothing gets done. No offense to conveyancers out there, but I've had some terrible experiences that I probably would go into a different video. But it really helps when you have a good set of conveyancers and solicitors on your team. So you make sure that you're checking for Google reviews on them, and if you have seen any negative reviews, maybe try and inquire as to why that has happened before you engage with them, if possible. Freehold versus leasehold. So in the UK, properties are often sold as freehold or leasehold. So with freehold, you own both the property and the land that it's on, technically. I won't go into the point of, the royal family owning the land anyway, but for the purpose of this video, for freehold, you own both the property and the land. Whereas with leasehold, you only own the property for a set number of years, and you may pay ground rent to the freeholder. So you want to make sure you review the length of the lease, because leases is short leases are under like 80 years can really reduce the property's value. This is something that actually is a bit unusual, and maybe you probably wouldn't be thinking it from the top of your mind. Mobile signal and broadband speed. So, in today's digital world, slow internet network or poor reception can actually become very frustrating, especially with the nature of working from home nowadays. So this is something that you really want to consider, because you don't want to end up getting a property and then having to fork out so much just to have just standard or normal internet connection before making that offer. So everything else is great. So before making that offer, or maybe first up, you want to go to the property and use apps to check for mobile reception inside the home, and check with providers for the broadband speed in that area. Because quite frankly, poor internet speed can really impact your productivity, and then that can end up impacting your overall quality of life. So another less obvious but important one is flood risk and insurance cost. So parts of the UK, even in the inland, can be really at risk of flooding due to heavy rain, and that can affect the insurance premium and also the property value. So what I will do is use the UK's government's flood risk maps to see if the property is in a flood-prone area. So even if it's never flooded before, changing weather patterns mean future risk, And flood-prone homes can come with higher insurance costs as well. So these 2 extra tips, checking mobile and internet connectivity that you may not be thinking of, can have a big impact on your decision to buy in that property. And if you're thinking about getting into property investing, check out the link in the description box for more. Thanks for watching.